Hello guys and welcome to this video. Today I will showcase the best beginner decks based on your favorite anime. For that I decided to select one deck for each of the anime set that has been released in Union Arena so far, and I'm also only talking about the English version. So before we showcase the decks, I just wanna show you this website. It's called exburst.df. If you decided to start the game, I think this is a good starting point for you. It's a website where you can build your own decks and find some decks that other people have created, which you can then use as a guideline to build your decks in real life or use them to play in the simulator. Alright, that's it for the introduction. I hope you will enjoy this video, and here's the first deck. Alright, so the first deck I want to talk about is from the Bleach universe, and as you can see we have the Renji and the Ichigo here. This is one of the very basic decks that you can build, and it relies a lot on the structure deck, as you can see here. The ST stands for structure deck cards and the BT stands for the booster cards that you need to collect to build this deck. So as you can see, it is like pretty easy to build. You just need the structure deck and a few other cards from the boosters and you're good to go. Besides that, this deck is actually one of the top meta decks still, even though it came from the first set that was released in Union Arena in the English version. So if you like Bleach and you still want to have like a beginner top deck, I would highly suggest you this one. So let's start by looking at the card. First off, we have all the cards that you can get from the structure deck. We got the zero cost Oreo over here. He has a Vamblade ability to recycle cards, which is pretty strong in this deck because you want to have a lot of cards in your sideline to activate your Ichigo's abilities. We run 4 of the Oreos in this deck because he's very important, especially as a zero cost character. Next up we have our double energy generation cards, as you can see here in the bottom right corner. And I just decided to run 2 of each because you can find them like this in the structure deck. So I have 2 of the Urahara 3 energy, double energy generation. I have 2 of the Orihime, 1 energy and double energy generation, and 2 of the 2 energy cost Kisuke Urahara. Now you can play around with these, and you can also run 4 of the Orihime, which is pretty good because her Vamblade abilities needs you to return 1 character from your field to your hand, and it also needs to have 1 or less energy generation, so you can return your Oreo back to your hand and play it again to get more cards into your sideline. Next up we have the Ichigo line from the structure deck. We have the basic 0 cost Ichigo here, then we have the 3 cost Ichigo when attacking, for when attacking ability to gain 1000 battle points until the end of the turn, while also having double energy generation, and 1 of the raid Ichigos, the 4 cost Ichigo, who can get impact 1 and draw a card. So I run 4 of each of these because the Ichigo is one main part of our deck, and I think you might need to buy 2 structure decks to find 4 of this Ichigo, but I'm not sure. Then our last character is 4 of the Renji 3 costs. He can minus someone if he's on the front line, and he will be needed to raid the Renji card, so I also run 4 of these. The last cards from the structure decks are some event cards. I decided to run 2 of the Substitute Soul Reaper because it allows you to draw 2 cards and sideline 1 card from your hand, which is pretty good for this deck. Then we have the mandatory Bankai final trigger, which allows you to restate your action points, and then the special trigger for Ichigo to KO 5k if he's on the field. Lastly, here are the cards that you need from the booster. First we have the addition to the Renji line, which is the 0 cost Renji. I decided to only run 2 of these because I already have so many other 0 costs. Then we have the Renji raid. This character you can play with the raid or without the raid. It is usually played without the raid to be able to rush your opponent down with the double attack. And then 2 more cards for the Ichigo line, which is the raid Ichigo from the booster, which is pretty strong, and the 1 cost collar trigger Ichigo. So we run 4 of all of these cards. We run 4 of the Renji raid, the Ichigo raid, and the collar trigger Ichigo. So this concludes the deck tutorial for the Bleach set. As another alternative, I have here the Byakuya, which you can exchange for the Renji. If you're a bigger fan of the Byakuya, he can go in this deck. He can also go into this deck and do pretty well. However, the Renji is generally stronger. Or if you don't like the purple color of the Bleach set, You can decide to run the Toshiro set, but I will not explain it further at the moment. Alright, let's move to the next anime. Next, we're gonna talk about the HunterxHunter set. And here we are talking about the Kurapika and his Impact 1 snipe mechanic. Now, similar to the Renji, this is also one of the earlier decks that was released, but is still in the meta, simply because the snipe ability is super strong on a character that has 5000 battle points. Now, for this deck, you need a lot of cards from the booster, as you can see, because you cannot find the Kurapikas in the structure deck. The structure deck is revolving around Gon. So if you just want to rely a lot on the structure deck, I would suggest you to check out the Gon deck without the Kurapika, because there's more cards from the structure deck that will be used in this deck. But let's talk about the Kurapika first. So these are some cards that you can include from the structure deck. None of these are like really necessary, and you can find most of these in the booster too. However, if you already decide to go into the HunterxHunter, getting the structure deck is probably a good idea. So we start off by 4 of the Sator 0 cost. He's just a 0 cost character that can gain another energy generation when you sideline him. And since the Kurapika needs 7 energy to get on the field, you need to have a lot of energy in your energy line. Then we have more of the 2 energy generation cards. We have the 1 cost Lirio, which I decided to run 2 of. He needs to return 1 character from my field with 1 or less energy to my hand to be played, and this is just a basic vanilla 3 cost Lirio that also has double energy generation. Also decided only to run 2 of these. However, these are like searchable with 1 of the Gon cards. Then we have 4 of the double energy Kurapika. Again, we need Kurapikas to raid with this character. So we run 4 of these, and we need the energy too. Then 4 of the Hunter license to switch our action points back to active. 2 of the photo of Ging. Now this event lets us search for any character, and if that character was a Gon, I'm able to draw 1 more card. And then I also decided to include 2 of the raid Gons, just because he has also impact, and he can give all of our characters 1000 battle points until the end of the turn. Okay, next let's talk about the cards from the booster that you need. We got 4 of the 0 cost Kurapika, pretty standard here. Then 4 of the 5 cost Kurapika. This character can gain Impact 1 and lets you recycle the top card of your deck when played and when attacking. And he's also the color trigger for this deck. So we run 4 of them. Then the star of the deck, 4 of the raid Kurapika, 7 cost. He has Impact 1, and when played you can choose to give him a snipe ability, or to rest someone on your opponent's front line. However, the snipe ability in most situations is the better option, because you can deal 1 damage for free and can sideline 1 of your opponent's characters. And here's the special trigger for the Kurapika. Basically, you can give 1 of your characters 2000 battle points till the end of the turn, and if that card is Kurapika, he also gains the snipe ability to the end of the turn. Oh, and you can also draw a card if your character wins a battle. Alright, then we come to the support. We run 4 of the Neon double action point cost. However, she can play 1 character from your top of the deck, or you can raid with, from the top of your deck with your Kurapika with her. So she's pretty strong. Then we have 4 of the Socha Gon. You can look for a Killua, Kurapika, or Lirio card with 4 or less energy and add them to the hand. 2 of the 4 cost Lirio. He can get Impact 1, and if he's not blocked when he attacks, he can draw a card. 2 of the Heavens Arena, when a character on your field attacks and wins a battle, draw a card, pretty standard, while still generating 1 energy generation. And then 2 of the Hanzo, who can just get, when attacking, either plus 1000 battle points or double damage until the end of the turn. Now this deck is really strong, and I highly suggest you to build this if you're a HunterxHunter fan and you're just starting with Union Arena, because I think it will be meta relevant even with later sets releasing. Again, as a small alternative, I can suggest you just to run the Gon deck. It's a little bit easier to build, however it's not as strong as the Kurapika. And if you like the Phantom Droop, you can also decide to look into the Krollo deck. He can reactivate when blade abilities of other characters from the Phantom Droop. Okay, that concludes the HunterxHunter portion of the video. Let's go to JuJutsu Kaisen next. Okay, the JuJutsu Kaisen is also pretty easy. I would just suggest you to run the Sukuna deck here. Now, this deck wants to play a lot of Yuji cards and rate them with your Sukuna, while also at the same time collecting the Sukuna finger into your sideline. So your Sukuna cards would actually get a lot of benefits from it. You can do this by just playing these cards normally, or you can just drop them from your hand into your sideline with other abilities like cards that allow you to draw a card and put them into the sideline. So let's take a look at the cards first. As you can see, it's pretty balanced between structure deck cards and booster cards. And the blue color in JuJutsu Kaisen is generally really versatile, so you can run a lot of options, which I will talk about later. So from the structure deck, we always need the Raid Sukuna. He's the main protagonist of our deck, but we also collect some of the Yuji line, like the 0-cost Yuji and the 3-cost double energy Yuji, which is good to generate energy for our higher energy cards. Then we also add some of the Nobara double energy into our deck, just to bounce some of our characters that can draw a card and sideline one card, while also generating 2 energy. Then we need 4 of the Sukuna finger. You need 4 of them in your sideline to get all the abilities. 4 of the Yuji special trigger. Sukuna doesn't have its own special trigger, so you gotta run the Yuji special trigger in this deck. 2 of the JuJutsu High School first year. This is basically just a draw card to draw 3 and place 2 cards from your hand to the sideline. And then 4 of the domain expansion, which is the action point restate. Okay, moving on to the booster. We need to complete the Yuji line while also adding 1 more Sukuna to our deck. So we got 4 of the color trigger Yuji, 2 action points. He lets you bounce a character or sideline a character with 3500 battle points, but you mainly run it for the color trigger and the double energy generation. Then I decided to run 2 of the Yuji raids in this deck, just to go along a little bit with all of the Yuji cards that we play, and he basically just allows you to bounce a 4000 battle point character back to the hand, which is why we only run 2 of them. Next we have 4 of the Sukuna raid. This is basically the Searcher Sukuna, who searches for the finger or the shrine, which gives you a lot of abilities. Then 4 of the Maki. She's pretty strong, just to recycle your hand a little bit, because you can look at the top 2 cards of your deck and add 1 to your hand and place the other 1 into the sideline, which is basically a draw 2 and sideline 1 card ability. We run 2 of the Malron Shrine. This card is a side which is like really important, because you need to rest this to give your Sukuna some special abilities like double damage, snipe, and impact +1, and is also a staple in this deck. You can run more of these, however, since it is searchable with the 5-cost Sukuna and you at most need 2 of them on your field, running 2 is totally fine. Then some last supporter cards are the 0-cost Nobara, so we have more 0-cost to draw on, while she can also draw a card and place 1 card from my hand into the sideline. And then 2 of the Slaughter Demon, which allows us to draw a card and give one of our characters 2000 battle points. The main reason why I put this in this deck is that if you have 1 or more cost tool cards in my sideline, this character will gain 1500 battle points in my opponent's turn. Alright, that's it for the Sukuna deck. As I mentioned, this deck is very versatile. At the moment, it's kind of restricted that you can only run either this Yuji Searcher or this 4-cost Raid Sukuna in your deck. So you can switch these out depending on how you want to get the fingers into your sideline. You could then also add the 6-cost double action point Sukuna, who can bounce a lot of characters on your opponent's field. You can add more of the Yuji raid, so you can decide to bounce single characters back to the hand a little bit more effectively. Or you can add the Nanami line and just play around his character. He basically wants to have a lot of cards in his sideline to gain a lot of abilities like Impact 1, double damage, and plus 1000 battle points. Okay, so far so good. Let's move on to Code Geass. So the Code Geass set is this first special set, because there is no structure deck. There's only booster boxes and booster packs. So it will be a little bit harder to actually build a proper deck, since you most likely need to buy singles. or like a lot of booster boxes. So I decided to introduce the Lancelot Susaku deck here. You could have also introduced the Gawain deck. It is at the moment a little bit better than the Lancelot deck. However, the Lancelot deck will get some improvements in the future with the next Code Geass set releasing. I also think that at the moment it is cheaper than the Gawain deck because the Gawain is more in the meta at the moment. So let's take a look at the cards. Again, you need to collect all of them from the booster or buy like singles because there's no structure deck. We start off with the main character of the deck here, the Susaku. We run 4 of the 0-cost Susaku, 4 of the color trigger Susaku, double energy generation, and 2 of the 4-cost Susaku. These are basically the character that we're gonna raid this deck. And the raid cards are the Lancelot. We have firstly the 6-cost Lancelot, who just gains double damage. And when sidelined, you can return the Susaku back to the hand, which is pretty good. And then we get the big boss here, the 8 energy Lancelot Air Cavalry, double damage, impact 1, and when blade you can sideline a 5k. So this is a really strong card, however the difficult point is to get up to this 8 energy generation that you need to play this card. So next up we have the support, which kinda helps a little bit in getting the 8 energy that is required to play the big boys. First off we have the 0-cost Euphemia, you can sideline her to gain another energy generation. Then we have probably the most annoying card of this deck, the 1-cost Euphemia. If she's on the front line, then characters on your field other than Euphemia cannot be chosen by abilities on event cards your opponent uses from their hand. This means that my opponent needs to KO this Euphemia first before he can sideline any of these big boys with a special trigger. With a special trigger card, not with the special trigger ability. And my opponent can also not freeze any character with an event card. So this character pretty strong and a really strong staple in this deck. That's why we run 4 of her. Next we just run 2 of the triple energy generation Euphemia. You just need 1 of her on board, and I think that the Special Corps head trailer is a little bit better than her in generating energy. The next pack of support is the Jeremiah, just to include some more 0-cost double energy generation with step and double block. And then the raid, which allows you to add 1 character card other than secret from your sideline to your hand, so you can recycle 1 of the Lancelot units. And lastly, there are all the event cards that we play. We play 2 of the Special Corps head trailer. Basically, you can drop 1 card from your hand into your sideline, and then this character will be a 3 energy generation, which is necessary for your air cavalry. We have 2 of the All Hail Britannia. Basically this just gives us 1 more impact damage, and if you use this on your Lancelot and he attacks, he will deal 2 damage no matter what, as long as your opponent doesn't have a nullify impact on the field. Then we run 4 of the search spell. Is the unit maintenance. You can add up to 1 character or Special Corps head trailer card to your hand, and if that card added to your hand is 1 of the mechas, you don't need to sideline 1 card from your hand afterwards. Oh no, you can switch 1 of your action point back to active, sorry. And the last 2 cards in this deck are the special trigger, the 5k KO spell, and the life, which is the action point restate and the final trigger. This is a pretty strong deck, and it will get even stronger in the future. So if you're a big fan of Code Geass and you like Susaku as a character, I would suggest you to build this deck. Again, otherwise, if you're a bigger fan of Lelouch and CC, you can run the Gawain deck. It is a little bit stronger at the moment, however in the future I think the Lancelot will be better. Or if you just want to save a lot of money, this is the cheapest deck that you can build from the Code Geass set. Since there's no structured deck, it might be hard to build like some other decks, and if you just want to try out these cards, you can go for the 4 Holy Swords cards. They're not strong, and they're pretty much only for fun at locals, but it's the cheapest deck that you can build in Union Arena. Okay, Code Geass is done, so next up is Demon Slayer. Alright, for the Demon Slayer deck, it's also easy again, because you have the yellow structure deck, and there are a lot of cards that are already in the deck that are pretty useful. so you only need a few cards from the booster to make a good deck. I think the Nezuko and Tanjiro deck is pretty good for beginners, and it's also a strong deck in the meta right now, while it's also pretty easy to play and build. So let's start by taking a look at the structure deck cards. Now from the structure deck, we basically want the Tanjiro evolution line. We want 4 of the 0-cost Tanjiro, 4 of the 2-cost Tanjiro with step, and 4 of the Raid Tanjiro that can gain Impact 1. He and Nezuko will be the main characters in this deck, so you wanna have a lot of them on your field so you can raid them. There are 2 Raid Tanjiro cards, while there's only 1 Raid Nezuko card. However, you can recycle a lot of the cards with the abilities that they have. Then we want to have 4 of the 0-cost Nezuko from the structure deck. I think you can find it also in the boosters. And 2 of the Kasugai Crow. It's a simple 0-cost character that can gain 1 more energy when you sideline him. Then another important part from the structure deck is 4 of the Zenitsu and 2 of the Comrades. These are both search cards. The Zenitsu searches for Tanjiro, Nezuko, or Inosuke, while the Comrades is searching for Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Zenitsu or Inosuke. The last 2 cards from the structure deck will be the final trigger and action point restate, and the special trigger for Tanjiro. We'll run 4 of each in this deck. Okay, moving on to the boosters. We have, in addition to the Tanjiro line, we have the 3-cost Tanjiro, who has a good when blade ability because he can play a Nezuko from your hand onto the field. We got the second Raid Tanjiro. He gets Impact 1 and can recycle 1 Nezuko from your sideline. We run 4 of each in the deck. Then we also run 4 of the additional Nezuko package, 4 of the 2-cost Nezuko, who can minus someone on my opponent's front line if Tanjiro is on my field, and then the Raid Nezuko, who can switch out the Tanjiro from your front line to your energy line when she attacks. The last card is kinda open. I decided to run only 2 of the color triggers in this deck, simply because this card is not useful due to the high cost, and the color trigger itself is also not that great. So you can either decide to run 2 color triggers or delete some cards and run 4 color triggers, or switch out the color trigger completely and then add 1 of these cards to your deck. This one is the Kagaya, who allows you to sideline him and place 1 card from your hand into the sideline to switch 1 of your action points back to active, or another Nezuko who can sideline a frontline character. So this is the beginner Demon Slayer deck, Nezuko and Tanjiro. It's pretty strong, pretty good in the meta, and pretty easy to play. If you're somehow not a big fan of both of them, or want to run other characters, I can suggest you the decks of either the Red Inosuke, who usually goes together with Zenitsu, or the Red Tanjiro. Or you can try to be the evil guy and run the Muzan deck. However, the Muzan deck is a little bit more technical, so it's not really easy for beginners. Coming to the last one in the English set, we are at the One Punch Man set. Now this is the most recent set, and we are lucky again because we received a structure deck. Here I decided to showcase the yellow Saitama together with the Genos. It's one of the most basic decks, and you only need a few cards from the booster. However, it's still pretty strong. So let's take a look at the cards. First up here from the structure deck, we can gain the Genos line here and 2 of the Saitama cards that we need. For the Genos, I decided to get 4 of the 0-cost Genos, then 2 of the 3-cost Genos. He has double block and a draw trigger, but he's one of the worst Genos vanilla cards that you run in this deck, so I only run 2 of them. And then we have 4 of the Raid Genos. He can play Impact 1, and when he's sidelined, you can recycle 1 Genos back to your field. Now coming to the Saitama cards, they're pretty broken if you just started the game, because both of them have 10,000 battle points. Before he got released, I think the highest battle points was 5,000, at least in the English set. So this character can basically block anyone and wins every battle. We run 4 of the 3 energy Saitamas here, and 4 of the 4 energy double action point Saitamas. However, I think he is one of the worst Saitama that you can run in this deck. There will be a total of 3 different Saitama cards, and all of them have a restriction simply because they are too strong. So what they all have in common is that this character cannot be removed from the field by your opponent's abilities, which means you cannot sideline him with a trigger and an event card. However, at the end of the attack phase, each of these Saitama needs to do something different. This guy needs to go back to the energy line, which is pretty alright. However, this guy needs to go on the bottom of the deck, so he completely disappears from the play. Which is why he is one of the worst ones to play. Next up we have the event cards from the structure deck. You get 4 of the special trigger for Genos here. Saitama doesn't have a special trigger, so you gotta run the Genos one. That's why you include him into the deck. And we have 4 of the final trigger hero card. Choose up to 2 of your action points and switch them back to active. We run 2 of the Saitama's apartment. This is a side card that can look for a Saitama, Genos or King card, which is pretty good. And lastly, we run 4 of the One Punch event cards. This card can basically deal 1 damage as long as your opponent has 3 or more life, which is like very strong for just an event card. But if your opponent has like below 3 life, you can just give your Saitama Impact 1. Moving on to the booster pack. We got some addition with some 0-cost characters and the King, who is also a staple in this deck, together with some cards for the Genos line and another Saitama card. So we include 2 of the Movement Rider. He is just a 0-cost that can gain another energy generation. We include 4 of the 0-cost King card. He has 5,000 battle points. However, this character cannot attack or block. So he's mostly as a utility character for your Saitama to switch him back to active. While he can also freeze characters that have 2,500 battle points or less. The Genos cards, we run 4 of the 2-cost Genos. He's basically a searcher for a Saitama card. And if you have a Saitama on field, you can draw a card with him, which is also pretty neat. And 4 of the color trigger Genos, he has Nullify Impact, and he can switch a character back to active when he's sidelined. The last card that you need is 4 of the 5-cost 2 action point Saitama. He's probably the best Saitama that you can get out of the field because he doesn't leave play that easily. And the drawback on him is when he's attacking, he will be frozen, which is a very acceptable drawback. Because if you have a King on your front line, you could switch him back to active and use him as a block in another turn. That's it for the Saitama and Genos deck. It's a pretty strong deck. But if you're interested in different decks, I can also suggest you the green Saitama deck. Now this Saitama can pretty much one-shot your opponent because he has damage 7. So if he is not blocked, he will deal 7 life in 1 hit. However, his biggest drawback is that he has 15 green energy cost, so you need to generate a lot of energy. The other deck I would suggest would be the Terrible Tornado deck together with a sister Hellish Blizzard. This deck is also pretty strong. You need to play a lot of event cards in this deck. It's a fun deck and I think it's still relevant in the meta. Alright guys, this concludes the video. I hope I could help you out a little bit in deciding which deck you want to run. There are currently only 6 animes in the English set, but there are more to come. So guys, let me know in the comments which deck you will be choosing. If it will be one of these decks or you decided to run a completely different deck. And you can find tutorials for these decks on my channel, pretty much. I think I featured most of these decks in at least one duel. So check it out if you want, and I will see you next time.